Heya, back with another video, and this one is all about Lunatone and how to sweep with it in OU, which is something that I've come up with. Um, a pretty neat idea. So, like, Lunatone is not completely unseen in OU. People have been known to experiment with it, but usually they're using Calm Mind and Baton Pass with it. It's usually like the standard set would be like Calm Mind, Ice Beam, Baton Pass, Hypnosis. Because Sleep, Calm Mind Pass, all useful, and Ice Beam lets it check Salamence. So that's like the standard idea with Lunatone. Now, I personally think that both Lunatone and Soul Rock are pretty underrated in OU. They do very different things. But this time I was like, well, I've always thought these Pokemon are like, they're pretty good. Like, resisting flying and ground together, always a good thing. Like, the stats are a bit lackluster, but you can usually just about squeeze something out of them. So, I really want to get into, like, why you'd want to use Lunatone, where it fits. Because it actually has some pretty cool traits. So, yeah. Hypnosis is obviously an awesome move, although initially I was testing a variant with Rest instead of Hypnosis. And, like, all the replays I have with the team are with the Rest variant. So I don't really have good replays, unfortunately, to show. So this will be a bit of a shorter video. But Hypnosis is awesome when paired with Dugtrio. But we'll get to the Dugtrio thing in a second. But like, I wanted to bring attention to the fact that it's Sand immune and Ground immune. So in terms of like other quote unquote like Glass Mons or other sweepers that might fit on a slower team, this doesn't need support to remove Sand. It doesn't care if Sand is up. And it also doesn't need Rapid Spin support, which is unusual because, like, Crocoon definitely likes it, Snorlax, like, requires it, even, like, Offensive Snorlax really wants it. So, compared to, like, those, like, the most common sort of last mon Pokemon, sweepers, it doesn't require that much support, necessarily. What it does like, actually, is Dugtrio support. A lot of its best answers are like Steel types, Tyranitar, Celebi can be annoying as well, Water types like Suicune, and most of those, not all of those, but a lot of them can be trapped by Dugtrio, and you make your job even easier with Hypnosis. If you can sleep a defensive Jirachi, if you can sleep a physical Tyranitar, if you can sleep, something else, like, you know, I guess to some extent you can even sleep Skarmory, then Dugtrio can pick off a lot of those Pokemon once they're asleep, and that increases the threat level of Lunatone significantly, its ability to break through stuff. But yeah, finally, also checking important Pokemon, in particular, like DD-Mance, CB-Mance, and Gengar are like the biggest ones, is not a perfect check by any means because its stats are just so barely adequate, but it can KO them back. So this is the set I'm using at the moment. Psychic Oko's Gengar, as we'll see. Ice Beam Oko's Salamence, as we'll see. Calm Mind gives you sweeping potential, and Hypnosis lets you deal with grounded Pokemon. So it's self-sufficient to a degree. Dugtrio is the only support that it really, really super needs. So my thinking was just putting it on a Dugtrio Superman. I'll show you the team soon. I just want to go through, like, quickly showing you that with this spread that I've come up with, which is nothing world beating. It's got a little bit of speed. I can't remember exactly what for. It's like 179, I think, is what it hits. So, you know, it's base 70, so its natural speed is actually pretty decent. But I've like physically bulked it out as much as I can because it's meant to check things like Salamence, especially. The special attack is enough to get the guaranteed Oko on like the standard bulky DD-Mance and on offensive Gengar. It really does just barely get those. So like a more Spadef Salamence outside of Sand will often survive you, and like defensive Gengar can often like take a hit potentially. So you do have to be aware of that. But in retaliation, well, defensively, the set isn't so much like trying to hit benchmarks as like trying to hang on as well as it can. So you can see like a +1 rock slide from DD-Mance is doing a significant chunk. Gengar, especially if it's got HP Grass, that's doing a real chunk. A Moltres, Fire Blast and HP Grass isn't OHKOing, but is coming close. That's like another big reason for Hypnosis. It's like the Pokemon that you can't OHKO back, like Moltres, maybe a Salamence, maybe a Charizard. Those Pokemon, you would love to at least send them to sleep. That would be gigantic, and then you can start retaliating. But you send those powerful Pokemon to sleep that will want to stay in on you and pressure you. That's huge. So here's the set. Here's the team. Sorry. And this is kind of like what I really want to go over. Is like, okay, the Lunatone with Dugtrio makes a whole lot of sense. Putting it on Superman also makes a whole lot of sense. This is something you can't do with Grookey, and you can't really do this with Curslax either. They want spin support. They don't like a team where you can just kind of forget about spikes. So really, the two grounded Pokemon here, Dugtrio. I think Dugtrio doesn't like. In some ways, Dugtrio really cares about spikes. Like, oh, you're not getting through Blissey without. If there's spikes up because Ice Beam can OHKO. And like, that's true. I've got Hypnosis to help with that though, so it's not as big of a deal. And then secondly, Celebi, which has Recover, Elite Seed. Not in this case, Giga Drain, but like HP Grass. But Recover and Elite Seed has got 2 recovery moves. So it's not the worst thing to have as your grounded Pokemon. Trappers and Pokemon with instant recovery tend to be salvageable on Superman teams as a grounded Pokemon. It obviously is a weak point, but then you have weak points if you have no grounded Pokemon as well. So there's always a give and take. But yeah, this is meant to just be like an as standard as I could make it kind of Superman structure with Dugtrio. And then with like a Lunatone on top. I really love Light Screen Zapdos. It helps Dugtrio trap stuff. It helps Skarmory Spike. And potentially helps you even trap a Magneton, which is another thing you'd love to trap. It's worth noting that Lunatone will generally be seen towards the end game, because that's when like things like DD Mance, Gengar, those kinds of Pokemon start to come out. Salamence as well. It can act as a check to Gyarados, a check to Snorlax as well, but it's not necessarily going to be doing that, and you can protect it with this team with Skarmory and Celebi. And also like the Flagon to at least soft check some of those Pokemon for you, so that you can hold it off to the late game and be threatening to OHKO a lot of stuff, threaten to sleep important Pokemon when there's not as many things left, potentially, be more of a threat with spikes up as well. With Calm Mind as well, boosting its Spadef, water types aren't as big of a problem as they may seem, like a Swampert. Psychic can do decent damage with Stab. It's all kind of down to like if you can get a free turn or two. If like a water type is the biggest thing standing in your way, Lunatone is in a good spot. If there's things that need to be Dug trapped, that's a bigger ask. And obviously like relying on Hypnosis accuracy is never the world's best gamble, especially on a Pokemon as relatively frail as Lunatone. Obviously, it's like a bulky Pokemon in terms of like how I'm using it, but its natural stat line is just not all that much. If we just quickly open up the Smogon page for it, you can see 70, 65, 85 bulk. Even with a great defensive typing, is going to be a bit of a struggle in OU, but 95 special attack, pretty honest. So yeah, honestly, pretty underrated little Pokemon. I think the Calm Mind Pass sets are also pretty cool, but it can be tough to make like a good structure with it. Because it does answer a couple of things, but it's not the best at it. It's kind of limited at it. You also want it to be passing stuff, but on the other hand, Calm Mind Pass with Hypnosis is absolutely filthy. So, it's definitely another thing to try out, but this is just like such a different take on Lunatone. I've never seen anyone even like mention like defensive Lunatone or like a last born Lunatone or Lunatone on Superman or anything like that. So yeah, I just wanted to showcase something different. gives you an opportunity to sweep with Lunatone and OU without, crippling yourself in some way. It's a decent enough team. Yeah, so kind of all I wanted to say. Nice quick video. It's just go try out Lunatone. Obviously, this is not like a big whack 'em up fast offensive team, so I know this will be a bit harder for a lot of players to pilot, but on the other hand, you'll learn a lot from it if you do. I hope if you start winning games with it, if you figure out, oh, this team has to do X, Y, or Z thing when I see like a Suicune or a Gengar or whatever. Or, oh, light screen helps me in this scenario. Or, I can sit on Swampert with more than one Pokemon, but, what's the best one in this situation? Like whatever. My teams are not always easy to pilot, but my teams, at least my good teams, will always give you tools in any matchup and a path to victory and the ability to play around pretty much any common threat within reason. Obviously, they'll be soft to certain things, but this is a team is playable. It's something you can add to real repertoire at least and bring it a small amount. It's something fun to play around with on ladder or in friendlies. So give it a go. Like, subscribe. Trying to do videos every weekend. It's going okay. Not completely stuck to it, but anyway. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.